Greetings and welcome to the 2026 Psychic Forecast live stream. We've got a whole lot to talk about. We're going to be breaking ground on a brand new chapter in humanity in 2026. So my glasses are on. That means I mean business. And I've got like 20 some odd pages of notes. I'm going to be looking down and reading my notes a lot. In fact, my intro kind of was a little bit of a mini automatic writing. So I'm going to give the live people maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes to get their notifications. If you're watching the video, I'll timestamp when we actually begin. So let me say a few quick hellos to who's here. Susan, yay. Hit the like button. Thank you. And Suzette's here. And Mary, thank you. And Guruji, welcome. Who else? Millie's in. Suzette, we mentioned you. We've been having hi, Deborah. Welcome. Happy New Year. Hello, Michael. And all right. So you've been having a nice conversation. Well, I was about 3 minutes late. So let's wait. Hi, Yvonne. Hi, Felicia. So people are starting to find us. Let's give it one more minute. Lot to get into, lot to talk about. And frankly, I'm excited. I don't anticipate this being an easy year, but I expect it to be a year of greatness. I'll put it that way. So much good can happen. And they changed my whole StreamYard screen. So if I look a little bit confused, I am. And I'll likely be drinking a lot of water in the process. All right. Hello, Marie. Welcome. And Millie. So we said hello. All right. 2 demerits for me. I'm 3 minutes late. I'm usually 2 to 5 minutes late for these live streams, right? I can't show up on time for my own party, can I? Hello, Linda. Linda Pulili. All right. So let me get started. So for 2026, that's in 2 days, right? So we're right there. 2026 will be breaking ground on a whole new chapter for humanity. Forget the old rules. They no longer apply. This is a new earth. This is a new earth now, and those on the ascension path will receive great blessings. Here's your 2026 psychic forecast, top predictions for our brand new chapter on planet Earth. Finishing the year of the snake, we will shed our old skin. So we shall shed our own skin so we can ride the year of the fire horse to victory and glory. It won't be easy, not at all, but as usual, the prepared will thrive, and you deserve to thrive. So let's prepare now. So that's the little opener that I had, and I didn't want to miss that. That's why I was reading from that. So anyway, we're going to dive into a little bit of numerology, just a touch of astrology, because this is the whole year. So, I'm not going to dive too deep into these things. When I do my month by month, I dive a lot deeper into the transits and stuff like that. So we'll just touch on a few things. So what does prepared mean to you? Well, for starters, prepared emotionally, prepared spiritually, doing our work. Also, it's because it's such a volatile world that we're in. It's good to be prepared for like long-term power outages and stuff like that. We think that we always talk about around here. So anyway, I'm going to try to dive through all of this stuff, keep my personal stories to a minimum, which is against my normal style, I must say, and keep right to the facts, right to the program. So why are we breaking ground on a whole new reality? Basically, because it's the number 1 year. We have in numerology, we go through cycles of 1 through 9. It's really a 10 year, and 10 reduces to 1 because 2026, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10. 10's the wheel of fortune in the tarot, as well as in Chaldean numerology. That's the symbol, is the wheel of fortune. So it just shows we are turning a wheel. This is a new chapter that we are writing. And I asked Spirit for a message about the energies of the year. And this is what I got, that it's going to be like jumping into your brand new sports car, wanting to peel out, but that the energy sputters. So in other words, we need patience. We're just breaking ground on a new foundation of a new reality. So people think 1 year, oh, everything's going to change. It's going to be brand new. No, this is just the beginning of the cycle. And this is the breaking of the ground. So that means that we've got to clear the old foundations of the old corrupt ways so that we can build the foundation, a stronger foundation based on spiritual values, based on love, based on power for the people, and all of that good stuff. So in other words, be patient. It is new beginnings, but it won't happen all at once. Global ascension is a marathon, and it takes time. So it's not a sprint. And a couple of things, like I told you that we would not get the full Epstein list in 2025 in my 2025 forecast. It was an unpopular prediction, but it proved to be an accurate one. Not just one of many examples. And that we also told you that Trump would win. Well, we told you that 24, right? Be sworn in on time, but lasts only about 2 years in office. And we're going to get to more about the politics, the U.S. president, all that stuff in a little bit as we move on. But we did mention that he'd be sworn in on time, that he would have a huge impact right at the beginning, that it's a different Donald Trump, and he signed like over 100 executive orders in 24 hours. I'd say that they're verified. I did say to watch out around April and then around the summer, as his presidency could end around those times. But my prediction was for about 2 years. Up until recently, that's been my prediction. I even did videos on that. And the reason is that the astrology and numerology favored that possibility. But in those videos, I did say that my prediction is still that he would last 2 years. Now that changed, and I'm going to explain that a little bit later on in this live stream. What I'm going to do is go over a little bit of the overview, a bit of the numerology, a bit of the astrology. Then I've got a little month-by-month synopsis and specific predictions, visions that I had, and things of that nature, basically. So anyway, where are we? So I'll explain what changed shortly. So we are about love and positivity on this channel, but we're realistic also. So we're not going to sugarcoat it, but understand the future. It's based on the energies of the now. So if we raise the vibration in the now, that helps to improve the outcomes in the future. That's just the way time works. We're all conscious beings. We're all generators, receivers, and generators of energy. We're all connected. So the idea is to keep raising the vibrations, and some of those doom and gloom predictions won't happen, which would be a great thing, right? And I'm just kind of peeking at your comments here. So we're realistic. Understand that the change we want has to be earned. We have to create it. But this year we have a cosmic opportunity to break through and begin creating miraculous changes here on planet Earth. And we'll start with a little bit of numerology and just one or two interesting astrological facts to give you. All right, we talked about that. I may do some divination cards in the end. It depends on the timing and everything, but I have them. And or maybe I'll do Q&A. We'll see when I get through all this material. So back to the 10-1 year, breaking ground on a new chapter of humanity. And what do we have in the middle? We begin to get built. So the first 3 months or so is really about breaking the ground. So look for more exposures of corruption, more chaos, more resets, new technologies roll out before solid plan to their management is put in place. So humanity has a reputation being very short-sighted, and sometimes we pay the price for that. But in any event, lots of changes in government, including the U.S. government. Am I on the right pages here? I hope so. I am. And then so in other words, in the first part of the year, it's just kind of, we're starting to break down. We have to clear, like I was saying before, the old foundations first. And that's what the beginning of the year is going to be like, dislodging these old corrupt systems. So there's going to be a lot of clashing, a lot of unstable energy. So just be prepared for that. It's heading in a beautiful direction, but be prepared for that. It's been thousands of years of corruption on our planet. It's not going to just change overnight, right? So lots of change in government, including U.S. Then into mid-year, seeing adjustments, new governments, new alliances, more new protocols being put into place. Then see then we see the boom period, improvements of economy, global trend, then the crash later in the year, depending on how much we hold on to the old ways. So the more out in time we go, the more variable it gets, in other words. So this is a new spiritual cycle, a number 1 year, a new age, more awakening in society, puts pressures on governments to enact changes, and that increases protest, volatility, and such. We are building the foundation for a new earth, basically. Hello, new people that came in. So that's basically the nature of the number 1 year. And we build the first wall of the foundation of new reality. Then in the 2 year, which is next year, we start to build the connection. The 3 year is growth and expansion. The 4 year, we complete the foundation. Then the 5 year, things really change. That puts us out to about 2030, 2031. Where we see some huge changes by then. But there'll be more before that. So anyway, so a couple of astrological highlights to get into as I drink more and more water. So January, the outer planet, the 4 outer planet alignment that we've talked a lot about. Saturn's going to pull off of that, and it's going to become a 3 outer planet alignment. I'm going to go over this stuff very quickly because it's a little technical. Around the 9th of January. Now, January, to me, the year's going to start out like hitting the ground running. I think a lot of events are going to come very early in the year, in the month of January. These could include solar events. The sun is primed to deliver some strong solar flares. Doesn't mean it'll happen, but it's primed. We've been in solar maximum and we're starting the descending phase, which means a lot of energy has been injected into the earth. So the geological activity, atmospheric activity, it's all primed for extremes now. And because it's all driven by energy and consciousness and everything's changing, I think that's going to precipitate a lot of changes very early on in the year. So January 4 planet alignment around the 9th. So the 9th of January, Venus, Mars, and Sun are all in conjunction, while Jupiter's at an opposition. So that's a very strong planetary alignment. It's got an energetic resonance in the inner universe, but it also has a resonance in collective consciousness and the energies on Earth. So Venus and Mars and the Sun, these are all inner planets. Mars is action, energy. Venus is money. It's love. It's community. It's sharing. The Sun is creation. Then Jupiter is the expander, and that's in opposition. So Jupiter. So it's just so basically around the 9th, and I might do a 111 transmission here on the channel, because that's like a spiritual gateway, like a portal that's opening with this alignment that's going to help to raise the vibration. And a lot of people are going to be triggered and have awakenings around that time. Mercury conjunct Sun, right as both. Right as both the Sun and Mercury enter into Uranus. Right, that doesn't make sense. Anyway, I don't know what I wrote here. Sorry about that. But anyway, Mercury will be trining Uranus, Mercury, Sun, Moon, Sun, Mars, all conjunct. This is all right around the 9th. Mars trines Uranus, all around, all around the. All around the Martin Luther King weekend. That's the point. All the stuff is happening around Martin Luther King weekend. That could be a hugely eventful time in the U.S. and in the world, basically. Changes around then could affect the Trump presidency or other leaders stepping down or cabinet members being fired or stepping down, things like that. But there's a pull towards harmony and exposes a lot of a lot of corruption and stuff like that. Well, thank you for those of you that are doing the numerology for me also. Other leaders pull towards harmony, exposes dark forces and stuff like that. Okay. So yeah, Mars conjunct Sun, right as both enter into a trine with Uranus. I think that's what I was trying to say also. All right. Moving right along. So in April, Saturn pulls off of the 4-planet alignment. That helps to remove the restrictions, by the way. And another very changeable energy evolution, revolution. Uranus goes into Gemini late in the month. 3 outer planets will be in their new sign for many years to come. The building of new Earth happens in earnest. The 3 outer planet alignment stays active all year. What that is, it's Uranus sextiling Neptune and trining Pluto, and then Pluto and Neptune are also sextiling. So it's very harmonic. So outer planet movement is generational, and this is a favorable alignment that's going to be with us. It's really helping guide us into higher consciousness and higher realities here on Earth. So it's really, really amazing. Also, Saturn exact conjunction with Neptune on February the 20th helps to expose deception, changes, and social trends. Outer planet shows the trend at large in the world. And it adds inventiveness, spiritual value, community mindset, evolution, revolution, and overthrowing of old and unneeded forces. So anyway, let's see if I can read my notes, because we're going to go into a little bit of a month by month now. So we're going to get more into a more predictive stuff, as it were. So to apply energies to your personal life. So basically, when we're talking about the energetics of each month of the year, that's based on what I receive from spirit, as well as the numerology involved with that. Give peace a chance. Exactly. Yes. Let's give peace a chance. So we can apply that to our own lives also, if you understand the energies. Like January is going to be a universal 2 month. Now, for me, it's actually a 7 month. It's a personal 7 months. You can do your own personal numerology. But again, hit the ground running. Energy, release and relief, freedom, volatility. Now, another thing worth mentioning, and I kind of touched on in the beginning, we've been in the year of the snake, right? The snake is very powerful medicine. It's healing, it's transmutation, it's heavy duty, and it comes right after the year of the dragon. Heavy duty transformation, but the snake sheds its skin. So the Chinese New Year starts around February 1st. I don't know the dates. I think it's right at the beginning of February, because the new moon that probably the second, because the new moon's the 1st of February, I believe. And that brings in the year of the fire horse. The fire's action and energy and activity. The horse is about freedom, right? Horses are beautiful animals, right? About freedom, about empowerment. And again, it's like, getting back on our horse. So it's really really very positive. So anyway, release, relief. I just thought about that. Relationships highlighted personally. So our relationships might be highlighted, but it's a good time for release, relief, and to work on freedom and be aware of volatility and change that could affect our personal lives as well as the world at large. Relationships highlighted personally, globally, and I had visions of people opening their eyes. So this could be a very revealing month spiritually. A lot of awakenings can happen around this time. And a spiritual gateway portal around the ninth. We talked about that. Important changes in global politics, U.S. politics, people stepping down, maybe people getting fired, stuff like that. Big events will set trajectory for the new year. Solar, geological activity, record weather, ice. I got this vision of ice on the Hollywood sign, and I later, because psychic vision can be symbolic. And I later thought, when they talk about Hollywood, Florida, like South Florida, can I feel like there's going to be a major freeze in that area? The polar vortex is very weak, which means we get a lot of polar outbreaks in the lower latitudes. So certainly meteorologically, that potential is there. It could be unusually cold weather on the West Coast also. It could be statement on ice and riots and things like that in the LA area also. I think that might not necessarily be January, but soon after in that part. So record weather, Epstein partial release, and that's going to turn a lot of heads. So I think more names are going to come out, some fall guys, of course, to protect the higher ups. But we talked about that in other live streams. We see financial relief. We see tower falling. This could literally be like a high rise catching fire or exploding. I had that vision also that I think I shared in the winter or the December psychic forecast. To my knowledge, nothing like that's happened yet, but keep an eye on that, especially around like Dubai or Riyadh or those areas. That was like kind of the part of the world that was getting my attention. Financial relief. We might hear of some like stimulus packages or tax rebates or stuff like that. I don't think it would roll out that soon. That'd be in the U.S. We had one in, I think, what was it, $300 or $200 I got from the state. So, there's efforts to stimulate the economy, basically. We're going to talk more about the economy later on and politics and stuff like that. So that's just the month of January. That's just a little overview of the energies of January. February is of chaotic, conflict, revolutionary, expansive, overcoming oppression. So these may be things that come up in your life also, not just limited to the world itself. Big ET announcements. This could be like global. This could be the UN, extraterrestrials, right? We talked about that maybe that happened in December. And nothing, to my knowledge, well, Joe Rogan made an announcement, if you count that, but nothing on that level happened. So I revisited that prediction, and they were showing me more likely around February. As I'm talking, they say it could be March, but around that time period, I think we're going to have some big exposures, to be ready. Peace, I wrote in question marks, so we could have some agreements in Russia, Ukraine put in place by March. That would be great. Good for growth, expansiveness, learning, travel, legal battles, demonstration, ICE and terrorism, trade wars, water wars, but hope in the economy all show up in the energies of February. I know, beam me up, right? Me too. March, we saw about March. Skepticism balanced with hope is sort of part of the energies that I got around the month of March. Cooperation, offerings, sudden change, release, revolutionary, thinking outside of the box is very important in the month of March. It's a 4-month numerology that's Uranus guided. Major seismic or atmospheric event, high solar activity returns in March, I do believe. And 3i Atlas and Jupiter are going to be close in the month of March. Jupiter's very expansive, so I think a lot of that interstellar knowledge is going to start to become more available to us. New revelations around that. Offerings to stabilize the economy show up in March. Attempts to bring things back to normal, perhaps a ceasefire, ending of a war, that kind of a thing. Science, technology breakthroughs, big month for that in March. Medical breakthroughs, discovery, space, underwater, inside the earth, civilization, pyramids, artifacts, and things like that getting discovered. And yes, Millie, March we do start an eclipse season. I don't know if it's the end of February into March or if it's March itself, but that's a good point, Millie, that we start eclipse season in March. Thanks for reminding us. So April, big scams alert. Preparation, watch out for ripoffs. That was a big message around the month of April. That could show up in the global stage as well as in our personal lives also. Huge exposures. on crimes against humanity, maybe, that kind of a thing. So I think that's going to be very big, very revealing in the month of April, very up and down energy. So it's a good month to do our grounding and to do our heart work and all that kind of good stuff. Energy, best for positive change, helps create freedom. A ceasefire might be broken in April, so keep an eye on that. New war might break out. There could be some bank closures, financial upheavals, crypto scams. All that tends to show up around the energies of around April and that time period. Shocking Epstein or COVID or those types of corruptions, exposures or something of that magnitude. Anyway, seems to be on the table there. Let me see. I did not miss a page, did I? I don't think I did. Okay. So we're coming into the month of May. This is a month of rest, seclusion, healing. It's kind of the energy they were showing me for around this month. They're showing like a rest, a detainment, stuff like that. Issues possibly with the church or royal family, that kind of energy was showing up around May for me also. Economic stimulus, and we may actually, be fortunate to get some money around that time to help reboot or to keep the economy strong. I think like a heist also around that time, maybe like in the Smithsonian or museum or something like that. Was there one in the Louvre not that long ago? I seem to remember that seeing that on the news. Restorations in the White House. Big storm wind events were shown in May. That's just happens to be the peak of tornado season in the Great Plains in the United States. So keep an eye on that. Crypto financial scams again that showed up. Changes, going over towards more digital type currencies, blockchain, stuff like that, ledgers, global currency changes. So I think money's going to be another facet that's on the table. It's a 6-month in numerology, so money would be one of the highlights. Finances as well as Venus is a beautiful, loving energy too, right? So June shows a lot of changes in alignment, splits, stuff like that. Values, family, domestic issues changing, spiritual opening and awakening, which means we may experience in our lives some changes in the attitudes of our family members, our connections to people, our alliances. So all that tends to come under question or scrutiny during for what's shown in the energies of June. But spiritual awakening, it's a universal 7 months. So it lends itself a lot towards retreats and meditation. And again, look at your personal numerology. This is just sort of the broad stroke of the universal numerology that's affecting the collective and the world. One or more ex-presidents or world leaders may be, shall we say, transitioning into their next realities, basically. So look for things around that time. And to cut to the chase, and this could happen anytime, but I had this beautiful vision. It wasn't negative or anything. I think around October, November, Joe Biden around family being very, very peaceful. What that means, we don't know for sure. It's just a vision. So I always, like when I do my mediumship, I share the images and visions, and I don't always get the right interpretation. But I feel like that could be a time where one or more important figures transition. It's a 7, so it's a spiritual vibe. Anyways, governments breaking apart, leaders leaving, families gathering, people going home. There could be soldiers going home also, and stuff like that. Could include wars ending, plans unveil for Gaza, smart cities, all that stuff. So I think there's going to be a lot of that digital energy and mapping out things of that nature. We have a little bit to talk about AI and the ramifications coming up in a little bit later. And peaceful negotiations could be something about war actually ending by June. The Russia-Ukraine is the big one right now, but that could be that. So July, There's going to be a lot of darkness. So, be aware of possible potential power outages around that time that are a little bit more than local internet outages. And there's going to be anxiousness, awakening though, but worry in those energies. So if you start to experience that around July, go back into the heart and connect with your loving and conscious community. You'll practice presence, acceptance more than usual. Pay attention to your personal finances, changes in banking, systems of debt. I think, was it May? I might have to go back a little bit. Was it May or April? April was the month. Oh yeah. April was a big caution about getting ripped off, and that there could be like cyber attacks or things like that. So maybe safeguard your mind. When I'm doing month by month, what I'm saying in May happen in April or the follow or July. But around that time, and again, nothing's written in stone. But anyway, large scale power outages or internet blockages. Truth exposure, shocking. I wrote that down. Global threat from outer space. We may hear about an asteroid or Project Bluebeam or things of that nature. Big strong wind events around that time. So a lot with the storms and the atmospheric stuff. Economy worried after a period of optimism. Currency changes planned for centralizing or digitalizing currency may be rolling out or may be more known by that time. Basically, let me talk about Edelweiss. That was one of my favorite songs when I was growing up. From oh my goodness, I let me not divert my attention. Sound of Music, right? That's what Edelweiss was from. August, cleansing, clearing, completion. July's in 8 months, so 8's karmic. Keep that in mind. It's about money. So, a lot of news about economies like around July. A lot of legal stuff. So people may be going to trial. Crimes against humanity or against certain factions of humanity or states. There may be trials or justice around that time. Again, a lot is shifting in this energy, this higher frequency that's really about awakening and renewal and coming into our next level. So it's a lot of clearing that old, building that new, clearing ground for the new foundation of the new chapter of humanity. That's the theme of the year again. So August, cleansing, clearing, completion, letting go. It's a number 9 year that completes this month, number 9 month. So 1 year still, number 9 month. But they show me floods. So I think floods are on the table. The drought flood cycle is intensifying. I'll get to that shortly also. Some more of that on the table, but August could be especially defining. It's close to the peak of tropical season, so that's something to keep an eye on. Underwater earthquakes or volcanoes or tsunamis on the table in this energy. Financial systems ending, banking institutions. So something may shut down, something may change. Changes in government, especially in Europe, maybe Great Britain. Watch King Charles around that time. There could be some changes in his tenure as King of England. It could be a different country. I think Europe. So Starmer, well, he's Great Britain also. Macron. There's others on the table, but I think we're seeing a lot of those types of ending. September showed me a lot of abundance, a lot of joy, a big spiritual reboot around that month. It's the 1 month of the 1 year universally. New beginnings are really going to be highlighted on the table. So September, abundance, joy, spiritual reboot. Gold standard. September may be the month or right around the month where we finally go back on the gold standard and introduce something closer to a quantum financial system. I do think that's going to have initial repercussions, which I'll explain early, but it would be about time that money actually held real value and real wealth. Since 1971, when Nixon took the US dollar off the gold standard, it's really been artificial wealth. it's the value that we place on money is what makes it valuable. But now that change will actually have it connected to the standard of wealth throughout history on planet Earth, and that is gold and precious metals. So that would be a huge development, by the way. In general, economic improvement, though I wrote temporary, and I'll explain why. Countries settling into new leadership, that could be the United States. I'll get to that in a moment. Disbanding maybe, although this is, I don't think this is literally going to happen, but I wrote down disbanding of the World Economic Forum. I mean, that would be a dream come true, but there could be some changes in some, it may not be the WEF, it may be other global economic groups and organizations. There could be some changes or disbanding of that. Enactment of a new economy, or at least the beginning stages. So, losing the pennies is the start of that. It's the start of going off of physical currency and into digital currency. By the way, we have more to talk about that. Also, of course, news of a predominant female coming into power, new spiritual leaders, information brings hope, but precipitates the next, maybe bigger, even a bigger layer, the next and maybe bigger level of the purging, the old, corrupt, and the dark. So as we come into this energy that's highly spiritual, highly hopeful, very high vibe, well, the more light there is, the more darkness that gets exposed. So we may go through the next level of the purging energies that we are in as we are transitioning into New Earth. So October showed me a lot of split, division, choices. Which side are you on? Which side do you join? So this may be a personal choice as well as what's going on in the world around us. By the way, September is a good time for what's shown to work on your own personal wealth, your own investments, and things of that nature. Split, division, chaos. Which side are you on? Which side do you want to join? Disagreement, dissension over global financially pros, big pushbacks, beginning of a potential crash. And I hate to use that word, but that's the word that came. That may be a beneficial thing in the long run, though. Split in society develops or becomes more noticeable. Huge storms or tsunami potential in the month of October, especially. And then November, they're saying the art of the deal. That was like the first feeling that came up around November. So we may be making deals in our own life. This may be more on a national or global level. Month of negotiation, security issues. U.S. or other countries seeks to get back into good standings with global governments or global organizations. So it feels like there could be some healing of rifts that come up around the month of November, or at least moving in that direction. Major medical breakthroughs or announcements, perhaps a new pandemic. Let's keep an eye on that one. Breaches of national security, execute or breach of national security, or use as excuse to generate or to execute greater AI surveillance. Something may be going up. U.S. instead of the cameras, like the spy cameras, the AI spy camera. You may see them going up in the U.S. by next November. Yippee! Something to look forward to, or in other areas. I've heard that they've experimented with it in England already, probably other countries. So you know the drill. You know how that goes. The art of the deal. Trump's books. That may be more news about Trump, right? In November. Vandalism, terrorism against the landmark. Watch Lady Liberty. I'll put it to you that way, but it could be some other landmark. It's not necessarily that. And December, truth exposed, breaking ground, new ventures, challenges from others. So that's kind of what may be going on in our own lives also. Battles, oppression, endings of lots that's unfair, expansion and growth of spirituality. It's a 3-month. November was a 2-month. Actually, November is an 11 month, right? So that has a spiritual quality. It's not only the 11th month, but because you don't reduce Esther numbers. How does that work out? No. October is a 2-month. And then November would be a 3-month, a 12/3 month. All right. Then December's a 4-month again. So that's again, 4 months are fun because they're Uranus guided. It directs the energies of change and evolution and revolution into the earth. But truth exposed, breaking ground on new ventures. So that'd be good for us. Challenges from others, battles, oppression, endings of lots that's unfair, expansion, growth of spirituality, month of breakthrough, changes in education system, new vaccines or vaccine scrutiny hits new levels, riots, demonstration, leaders, old regimes, overthrows, states of emergency, November, December. But that could be all later liberties, technologies. That's interesting. Yeah, bring that up. So that's good. So let's go more into prediction. I want to talk a little bit. Start out with things around the U.S. president, your politics in general, and we'll move into other topics from there. So anyway, like I was saying early on, that I had had forecast him being in office about 2 years. I mean, if he makes it for the whole 4 years, I'll not only eat crow, but I'll dine on crow the rest of my life. That's how sure I am that he's not going to be president for 4 years. Again, until it happened, we don't know, right? But that was the prediction back then. I predicted that he would win, get inaugurated on time, change everything up. Yeah, a lot of things were accurate. Other things that were accurate is that I predicted, I think in the beginning of the year, but certainly as we moved into the summer, that come August, that his health would come under a lot of scrutiny. And that's really when we started to see all the thing with his hand and his gait. I mean, we saw some of that earlier. It wasn't brand new in August. I mean, people have been aware of that for a while, but it really started to come under the microscope right around that time. So that's important because that's going to likely be the reason cited for him to step down. And one of the months that came up, so I thought that it was going to be about 2 years until maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And I asked Spirit and they showed me February. Now, keep in mind, timelines are fluid. And I had somebody who used to follow the channel. That person's not anymore because I disagreed with them, but that person was like, sure, like the timelines are unchangeable. They're unshakable. Trump will be gone by the end of 2025. Well, that person may not be wrong. We still have one more day, right? So never say never, right? But that said, timelines are always fluid because the future is predicated on the now, the energies of the now and how that projects moving forward in time. So if we change the energy to now, it changes how reality projects going forward in time, right? So we can't know any of this stuff for sure. That's why this is a forecast, right? Forecasts are not 100% accurate, but hopefully we're able to give you enough accurate predictions and to give you an assessment of the energies that we'll be dealing with so that you can thrive and you can be prepared for eventual and possible changes. So they show me now, like I was saying, Martin Luther King weekend, keep an eye on that. I think something's going to happen and develop that might precipitate a change. It may not be Donald Trump. I mean, there's other political figures that are going to be on the hot seat. Vance just popped up in my mind. So it's not necessarily that, but anyway. So health issues, legal issues, Epstein allegations. These are all things that are going to bipartisan pushback. And all that stuff. So watch Martin Luther King to February. March and April also favorable for changes in the government. Again, it may not be the U.S. He may surprise us and stay in longer. Again, we'll see. It's always going to be for the highest good. There's a purpose for this. What's going on, even though a lot of us don't like it. There's a purpose for it, and I recognize the spirituality behind things. That's why it doesn't freak me out, and why I'm able to maintain a bipartisan attitude when they talk about him, or the Democratic Party and stuff like that. So changes in cabinet, appointees, there may be firings, resignations, stuff like that. So keep an eye on that also. It may not necessarily be directly Donald Trump. He may get through that period. If it doesn't happen in 2026, so I do believe that, I'll put this as a prediction, I do believe that he will be not in office by the end of 2026. If I'm wrong, I think very early 2027. And again, that there's a higher reason and a higher purpose for that. So if you do support Donald Trump, do not freak out, because it would mean that job is already done, and then the energies will continue to propagate forward. And if you don't like him, don't freak out, because there's a reason that this is happening. And at the end of the day, it's going to help wake people up. It's going to expose a lot of corruption in his wake. And you can take that however you want to take it, but that's the truth. So changes in, all right, where else? If it doesn't, and the other thing is, he was inaugurated on a universal 9-month, a month of completion. If cycles and numbers don't lie, it doesn't mean that he will necessarily leave in the year. But it's very telling that he was inaugurated on a universal 9-month. And his reign is destined to expose massive, deep corruption. And it's all written into our collective novel, so to speak. So it's all part of the chapter. Try the best you can to avoid seeing him as the devil or Hitler, even if you have that perception, and try to understand from a more of a spiritual perspective that we've had these situations in the past where rulers were unpopular or whatever, or abused their power. But at the end of the day, reforms happen and improvement happen. So again, however it plays out, and maybe I'm talking too much about this right now, but a situation of an interim leader could develop. Don't know exactly how that would play out, honestly. It could be that Vance comes under some fire also. And perhaps you see some changes coming up around Vance. So I wrote that in my notes. They're showing me like a subcommittee looking into corruption in the U.S. government this year also. There may be some talks about the 25th Amendment, impeachment, and that kind of stuff, and broadening the scope a little bit. Destabilization of world governments in general, Libya, Egypt, Australia, European Union. I'm not sure what's going on in Libya. All these countries, Venezuela. What's his name? Maduro. He may be stepping down also, just to be clear. So watch for King Charles. Also watch for more insights. This could be more exposure into the Charlie Kirk assassination and some of the dynamics behind it. We're going to, especially those of us that are open and aware, we're going to be getting a real lesson on how the internal politics in the world works and how things are really decided behind closed doors. And a lot of what we see is a stage. It's an act, basically. Changes in monarchy starting around September. Well, also Macron's star highlighted. Some are most likely changes in borders more than usual this year. So you may see countries changing their borders and things like that. Increased strife in Africa and South America. Now, Venezuela, we know what's going on in Venezuela, right? Do we know that Venezuela has a lot of oil? Do we know that Venezuela has a lot of gold reserves? Do we know that they have a lot of rare earth minerals? What about Nigeria? Wasn't there like an attack in Nigeria because there was allegedly an ISIS encampment there? Nigeria has vast reservoirs of rare earth minerals. Now, it could be ISIS could be the reason why that happened, but be aware of that. And you also understand that there is a race going on to either catch up with China or beat China in the technological advancements. Technology uses a lot of resources. AI uses a ton of resources, rare earth materials. And if you understand the history of the world, excuses are always made to invade certain countries for their resources. I don't see things have changed a whole lot. They've just gotten more sophisticated. Um, but we're in an awakening also. So this mindset is being more and more exposed, and more people are going to be aware of that. More invasion. Silver, also a very hot commodity. Look what happened to silver lately. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Water wars develop. Some of that is climatological, but the AI, what they call the structures. There's a name for that. AI uses so much freaking power. You talk about like what is it, right? A low carbon footprint, really. And it's hot, and they use water for evaporative cooling for the AI network. That's a lot of water. So water wars, that's going to be a reality, folks. Water wars. Developing and increasing. Technology and science. So let's go into a whole different topic. I think there could be a lot more to talk about with the changes of politics. I'm not getting to every country, obviously. This is a year forecast, meaning there's 12 months to cover. When I do the month by month forecast, I dig into more details on things in those. But AI networks, okay, we've talked about that. Effects of changing job markets, rapid development of AI data centers. That's what it's called, the data centers. I knew I had it written down. Some jobs get lost to AI. Some jobs are created by these data networks. So, and there's a change in the nature of how the job market moves because AI is changing everything, right? We understand that. We know that. It creates heavy demand on water and resources as well as land. So land is another hot commodity. It takes a lot of land to keep our Chat GPT or Geminis or whatever the next generation of AI is. US and West in general tried to beat China and other markets. So resources and countries, unfortunately, are likely to get exploited. Invasions possible. Use in medical and diagnostics. Use of AI in medical diagnostics increase. And we talked about new ways of diagnostics of illness and stuff like that. Experiments in different levels of transhumanism, because that's where the next step of AI is. It's the interfacing with technology. That's a mixed bag. There's definitely potential in a positive way, but there's a lot of we'll just put it this way: we've seen the Terminator, right? So anyway, experiments in different levels of transhumanism. Digital ID pressures, the big year for the whole rolling out of the whole digital ID. Yippee, right? AI surveillance, cameras, digital domains. Now, I don't know if this is a thing, because I don't know anything about this, but Spirit was showing me digital domains and what that means. And if this is something that's known and I just don't know about it, I apologize. But I think part of the plan is everybody gets a digital domain where you basically, your life is generated from. It's AI generated, of course. And from your domain, you won't need password to get on the sites anymore because you have your digital domain. And it'll be running much of your life, your financial transactions, visiting different website, applications, etc. happen from there. Now, this sounds like sci-fi to me that I've never heard of, and I'm going to see if any of your comments are saying anything that this is something that's known already. If not, then you heard it here first. Let me look at my notes. I know there's more to, but you get the idea. We'll all have like our own digital domain, just like we have a house to live in. We have a domicile in cyberspace that we live in, that we do our business, our transactions, that we live our lives from, all that kind of stuff. And of course, what to say, digital. I can again. I prepared my notes very fast. I didn't have a lot of time. Digital drives consciousness. I don't even know what I wrote there. Maybe it'll come to me. Let me go to my next page. Well, that's all I really had about that. All right. So what do I have to say? All right. I think we get the idea, right? The Matrix. Hello. Yeah. Hello. Exactly. Right. Um, so, and of course, the reason it will always be for your safety and security, because these, having, the digital ID, because you will need that to have a digital domain, right? You'll need a digital ID. It's almost like a key, like a passport into that domain. That means that you're subject to being watched, for your safety, of course, only. And transactions, money potentially monitored. No, they're not going to be watching every single thing or what everybody does. So, let's not get scared about it. Let's just be aware that these things are being developed. And like I said, and of course, digital drives. Digital drives consciousness. I don't know what I was getting at there, so I'm just going to move on. I don't know what I was thinking there. But we're getting there. We're on page 17 of about 22, so we're getting there. We're only 56 minutes in. Only pretty much have our my computer has. So new medical diagnostic tools, AI generated, AI combining with RNA vaccines, testing for cancer therapies. I believe that's going to begin. We heard about that when Trump was inaugurated. That was part of the Stargate project. For an administration and an ideology that was very anti-vax and anti-mRNA. I mean, it surprised me a little bit, to be quite honest, that that was part of the plan, and specifically mRNA vaccines and AI, to develop like your own personal therapies. We're a big part of that. And what else? Did I not? Yeah. And there was also defunding to cancer research facilities that happened around that time. Other potential cures or therapies that are a little bit more sophisticated than what we have now were being developed, but funding got cut. And a lot of funding went into developing the mRNA and AI technology as a cancer therapy. Not making any judgments about it. It is what it is. This is what I see. This is what's happening. You can draw your own conclusions from there. Now, tools for healing on a bioelectrical level are going to be revolutionizing medicines. Think med beds. I don't think the med beds are going to be quite what some had said, but I do think that there is some semblance of reality. They do exist. I have, I don't have proof, but I have enough evidence. I do a lot of cross-referencing when I research. They are being developed. They do exist. Energy medicine is a thing. It's a thing of the future. We all have a frequency and an energy. We can balance our energies. It can regenerate cells. It can bring energy into parts of the body to help your own healing abilities to kick in. What does that sound like to you? Reiki, energy healing? Well, now we'll have technology that can do that also. But you know what? Learn your Reiki. Learn how to heal yourself. Learn how to cultivate your own energy to heal your body, because nobody can take that away. If it's done by technology, somebody will have control over that. So it's great. I applaud this if it develops. It can save a lot of lives, but know how to do it yourself also. That's my suggestion. Tools for healing on a bioelectrical level and revolutionary. From the Rife generator, which is of the 1950s, I think, which is using electrical impulses that are specific current in order to create specific results in the body. And they're very effective to med beds, which are much more sophisticated, probably have, well, they'll use AI, or they use AI, but there's probably some alien technology connected to that. So I think we see this line of medicine beginning to unfold. Brave New World with such people in it. Who loves The Tempest? I do. Shakespeare. Exciting prospect, but like AI, will it be used for leveraging more control or power over others, or will it be revolutionary technology that supports our freedom and our spiritual growth? These are big questions, and these are big questions that are going to come up. Also, lots of underwater discoveries, ancient cities, ancient pyramids, vision of Sphinx-like objects found, ancient artifacts, extraterrestrial skeletons, I believe, are going to be discovered. I think that's happening already. Underground caves that beings once lived in. Area of east of Egypt. Well, actually, what's Libya and Somalia is east of Egypt. So between Somalia and India, I think they're going to discover, and I have to do a little research, see what the underwater landscape looks like. But I think they're going to discover, like in Atlantis, like a continent that once existed there in that area, which might partially explain why that's a very spiritual part of the world. You know, you think of India, Egypt, and those areas. New interstellar object or sky anomaly. This would be a big year for sky anomalies. A big year. We may have two more like 3-eye atlases. That'd be number 4 and number 5. Part of that is due to the fact that we can see more, to be clear about that. But I do think that as we are ascending, we're attracting more attention from the cosmos, and a lot of it, of course, is just, you know, how the energy moves, how space moves. But anyway, surprising new information on 3-eye atlas as it approaches Jupiter on March the 16th sparks a lot of change here on the Earth. So whatever it is, I mean, scientifically, it is a comet or an object from interstellar space. But as I've told you all along, there's a resonance of consciousness and purpose, and possibly even a life form that we don't understand connected with that. But it's also like it hasn't like an effect, like it's an archetypical or energetic effect on the collective consciousness, because it shows us more like energy about things that exist beyond our solar system. It raises more possibilities. It creates a lot of speculation, a lot of thinking, and things of that nature. Sparked a lot of changes here on Earth also, basically. And I do think that it's just part of the process of ascension. Everything is connected to consciousness. And I think it resonates in the collective fields in a certain way that is helping to precipitate our awakening and our understanding what lies beyond the solar system and in the galaxy at large. Now, the 16th is a very changeable day. It's the Tower energy. And that's when 3-eye atlas and Jupiter, the planet of expansion and spiritual growth and education and knowledge comes up, and energetic and archetypical significance, a recognition of something greater than ourselves. So I think as it gets closer to Jupiter, I don't know if one of the Jupiter orbiters will get a clearer shot, but I think there's going to be either another surprise with 3-eye atlas or something new getting discovered with that. Now, 2026 begins a 3-year period of at least full exposures of extraterrestrials. So I think this is going to be really, really big on that. I'm saying 60% conservatively, by the way. Include active use of alien technology or knowledge thereof. Knowledge that they've been with us and interacting with humans for a long time. Project Blue Dream is a real thing, but I don't think it's really going to get off the ground, to be quite honest. But, you know, we may see that, and that's really leveraging the extraterrestrial movement to create a fictitious belief that there's a war of the world's threat, and that we need to just bow down more to the government so we can be safe. So anyway, I don't think it's really going to get off the ground. February there could be a major UN or US announcement. February or March, for some reason those months came up. Keep an eye on that. Contacts increase exponentially. Many telepathic, many through your dreams. So you may be contacted also. spiritual revolution reaches the next level. Though challenge abounds, we will be celebrating it as we see more influx of spiritual growth in our society, recognized ascension. The people are, when we recognize that ascended beings, maybe extraterrestrial beings, ascended masters, are in sensitive government positions, creating global reforms and helping the awakening and to create higher forms of government and rule on planet Earth from the inside out. So people on the outside of government are working, but there's operatives that are working with the governments also for what I'm being shown. So you're year of the fire horse. The snake sheds the skin, fire's action, creativity, horse's power, freedom, reaching new domains. Now, going to the economy for a moment, global conflicts, economy, global conflicts. But first I want to talk about climate, geology. Then we get into those things. All right, hang in there for those of you that are waiting for that. That's going to be huge, huge, big news also. Climate geology could be a major eruptive event to kick things off. So watch out. January, the first couple of months, could be a major earthquake or volcano. We talked about 2025 was going to be a big year for earthquake activity. It's the sixth biggest in over 100 years so far. And that's without a 9.0. We had an 8.8. But an 8.8 is about 1/4 the strength of a 9.0 because it's a logarithmic scale with the seismic scale. Anyway, could be major eruptive event. Watch Japan. Earthquakes, volcanoes, economic collapses in Japan also. Lots of karma directed there in California. So we talked about, what do we say? There's going to be landslides in December. Oh gosh, that verified all too well, right? Yeah, and what's that area again? Drought, flood cycle intensified. That means floods and fires can reach record highs in this month. I think with the geology, we also predicted a very active year of volcanoes. It's been one of the most active years without a global eruptive event. In other words, there were no volcanoes that affected the whole globe. All these lesser, I mean, some of them were quite strong. Look at Kilauea, Japan, Russia, Kamchatka Peninsula, Indonesia. We've had a lot of big earthquakes, but none like a Mount St. Helen, or a Krakatoa, that would actually change the weather, and things like that. So considering we didn't have one of those, to have such an active period, to have one of the highest is something else. And I think, if anything, 2026 will match or surpass that. So anyway, continues. Weather anomalies galore, and I'll go more into detail in the month by month for those huge climate stories. Speculation on coming cooling cycles. I think we're going to hear some news, some shocking news about the climate. I think that the global warming narrative is going to try to hang in there a while longer, but the evidence is really going to start to support that that's trending into a cooling cycle. Remember, the sun is what drives the climate here on planet Earth. Human activity can create spikes. It can, on a very, very short-term effect thing, but the sun drives it. And so speculation on coming cooling cycle, concerns with changing ocean currents, which would change global climate, and that's already happening. Signs of a drastic climate shifts that are really hard to ignore. I think we're going to see come into play in the year 2026. Polar flip, remember that? Geomagnetic excursion, that's when the poles don't completely flip. It's just that they change. Sometimes they change back. I think we're really going to be having to look at that in 2026. And I think the 2030s and 2040s, that's going to be part of society, meaning that it's going to be a lot of change when that happens. But it's adaptable. we've adapted to do before on planet Earth. It's never caused a mass extinction cycle. A couple of the bad ones have come somewhat close, but it's never caused that. So it's nothing to fear. It's just natural cycles. Everything in this reality is happens in cycles. Energy always moves in waves. In higher dimensional reality, waves are spirals. So there's shorter cycles, there's longer cycles. Everything happens in cycles, including the polar shifts, because the magnetic field is a gyro based on the spinning of the Earth and the spinning of the magnetic core. And there's going to be perturbation. We have the South Atlantic anomaly growing, for example. We have the poles are shifting faster than they have in quite a while. So there's a lot of signs of that. So I think they're going to be hard to ignore in 2026. And moving right along, I don't know why, but I wrote next generation of AI begins to roll out. Okay, so we talked about that earlier. Space junk on the news, big time. So much so that there's a plan to clean up space is going to be necessary to develop in 2026. And a lot of that is the Starlinks, our high-speed internet, our high-speed cell service. That's all satellites. And satellite orbits, over time, they degenerate and they burn up in the atmosphere, and they create a lot of hazards, and they also create toxicity that precipitates down from the ionosphere into the stratosphere, and eventually finds its way to the surface. So very ambitious plans to address that, I believe, is going to happen. News of potential asteroid or comet collision. They're saying around May of 2028. We'll see if that I don't think it's going to happen, but I think news around that and a heads up's going to come up, and maybe they'll figure out ways to deflect that if that's thing. So earthquakes, I want to say in the summer, which will be your winter down under, watch New Zealand area. That's on the Ring of Fire. It's due. I've had a funny feeling about that. California could be soon. The Bay Area, but also on the San Andreas, closer to LA, maybe even into Mexico. I think there's a big one coming in South America. The biggest earthquake ever recorded was in Western South America, 9.5, which is unimaginable. Of course, the usual are Japan, obviously, although Japan's cooled off for now, so maybe that was not a foreshock sequence, but a lot of going on in Japan. That Italian super volcano, Etna's erupting again. We told you to pay attention to that area. I don't think we're going to get a super eruption from Campi Flegrei, if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think we're going to see some corruptions. There's Vesuvia. I'm pronouncing it wrong. There's a huge underwater volcano off of Italy. I just saw that on Stefan Byrne's channel yesterday. And it's something we've been talking about on the channel this year a lot. So I think there's more eruptive activity in that area. So interest is in Italy, the Mediterranean in general. Keep an eye on that. Also the Pacific Northwest, although I don't think imminent, because I had that vision of the tsunami generated from around the Cascadia subduction zone. I think starting around March and April, I think we have to keep an eye on that, but just be aware that there's potential instability, because I'm feeling it. Also the New Madrid fault, but I don't get that as strongly. I was really feeling last October for something around there. Nothing happened great. I'm happy that didn't verify, but always have to watch that area. But it feels more like the West Coast. And other areas. So, again, as the months come up and I get more specific, we'll talk about it. So keep an eye on Pacific Northwest, St. Helen, Rainier. Activity could pick up on Cascadia Fault Station, especially towards around March and moving on. But again, watch January. There's a lot going on in January. Also, they're showing me big crypto scams. I guess we're going into the economy, right? Did I finish that? Yeah, I did. Okay. So moving into the economy. Yeah, for big crypto scams to develop. I mean, they're already happening, but exposure of that. Corruption in general exposed on a grand level. Economy can show some increase. So that's the good news, right? But there's a big but around that. Last 3 years, the markets have gained. That would be, considered positive years for the economy. That'd be 2023, 2024 and 2025. I don't think 2026 is going to follow suit exactly. Changes in currency, more likely crypto. Return to gold standard. September looks likely. We talked about that earlier. Resistance to replacing physical money comes into play. So I don't think we'll ever lose physical money, to be honest, even if things go really into the digital currency direction. But I do think, and I was talking about, I do believe that the introduction of some of the concepts of a quantum financial system rather than the fiat dollar, which is what we're in, it could actually, and I don't know the economy that well. I don't know how the trends, this is purely an intuitive thing that came through. I think that that can initially precipitate a crash in the economy, and then it'll relate to recovery moving forward with that. The crash later in the year, not sure if things like crypto, ledgers, gold standards cause the crash, but could be part of the fall of the old system. So stronger movements towards the quantum financial system this year to probably be more established by or during the year 2028. So again, it's not happening overnight. We've talked a lot about huge exposure of corruption in 2025 when you hear all that it's all going to get exposed. Some people thought the Trump administration would do it. And I said, let's reality, it's not going to all get exposed in 2025. It's a process that's happening. And sure enough, it was underwhelming from where I'm sitting. There have been exposures, but it was underwhelming. So it's later in the year, crypto ledger could be part of the fall of the old system. Stronger movement. All right, I'm rereading stuff. Silver hitting 200, not out of the question in 2026. Not at all. With the silver, we're seeing some adjustments, so we may see a few ups and downs. Get in now. I thought earlier in December that we might peel back into the 50s. Unfortunately, that's not looking very likely now. It just seems like it's full speed ahead up now, but we may, and there's a lot of wheeling and dealing behind the scenes. And I'm not going to get too into that, but it's corrupt also. So are the cryptos, by the way. It's very, very corrupt. Crypto scams. But XRP should increase a lot, especially from February on. But other cryptos may take a hit. You could do very well in the crypto market if you know what you're doing. If you do your research and homework, but if not, I would stay away from it. And but precious metals, now silver has far outpaced gold. But if you invested in gold, when I said to invest in silver, that was in 2023. Mine has more than tripled. I got in at around 22 an ounce. Mine is more than tripled. So if you got in, you're doing very well. It's just going to keep going up. There may be ups and downs, but anyway, but XRP, Ripple, stuff like that, that's really connected to the new system from what I'm seeing. So again, I'm not an expert, and I would encourage you, if you're interested in this stuff, there are good psychics on YouTube and other venues that really focus on economy and money. And I honestly, I don't know who they are, but if you guys do, please share that on the chat for us. But towards the end of the month, even gold and silver could have setbacks, the cryptos, as things reset. So the thing is, gold, silver, these have always been the standards of wealth. They always have value, no matter what the dollar does, the euro does. These will always hold its value, have its value. And I encourage people to really invest in that. I think that's the best thing. So end of Russia-Ukraine war. Yeah, I expect that by mid-year, actually. Aggression can be very explosive, though, in other parts of the world. High incident of cyber attacks, terrorist attacks on AI facilities. So we see that type of terrorism building. Protests increase and leading, and that can include a lot of protests. Can include gosh, I can't read my writing, and I'm definitely getting exhausted here. We've been on almost an hour and 20 minutes, so that I'm not surprised. Protest increase. Anyway, I lost. I said it may include Canada. So, Canada may, even though it's been a little bit more neutral, a little bit more balanced than other countries because there's been a lot of upheaval already, right? It's talking about upheaval, change, revolutionary. It's almost redundant because it's already happening. It's just going to increase. But I think, Canadians might get a little bit tired about things like they can't hike in the woods because of fears of fire. That kind of control going on. Yeah, and there's other things. So, watch out for Canada getting a little bit volatile as the year goes on. Revolution, civil wars around the world, protests, big ones, UK already happening, Europe already happening, etc. Attacks on different countries. So we see wars ending, but new ones beginning, basically. More war impossible later year as concerns around World War escalate. More later in the year, NATO shifts, continued issues in Eastern Europe. A lot of freedom fighters as the systems of oppression are breaking down around the world. So we see a lot more of those types of things, and we might see a very large demonstration where governments really get overthrown by revolutionary movements and stuff like that, more than we've been seeing. I'll put it that way. Exposure of Russia insurgents possible, whatever the heck that means. That just came to me. I don't know what that means. But again, it's a number 1 year. It's a spiritual revolution. A lot of the old systems overthrown. It will be energetic, challenging, but exciting at the same time. The spiritual energy will be palpable. A lot of us that are doing our work will experience huge growth this year. Many can't handle these energies, so it'll be hard for a lot of people. So send a lot of love. We must stay strong. Become beacons of light and hope for the masses, because miraculous changes are ahead. Again, this 1 year is the setting into this new higher evolved energy, higher frequencies affecting the world, the planet. It's shaking the old loose. It's causing a lot of chaos in the world, yes, but from that chaos, new order and higher order is going to happen in this place. So stay in our heart, right? We must stay strong. And be in the heart, do your heart brain coherence work that we talk a lot about, and clearing, grounding, presence, ascension, all that stuff. Be in the eye of the storm. Ascension wars I wrote down. There's always been a war against spirituality. The forces that control things. Humanity awakening their worst nightmare, because they're going to lose control. So they're going to keep trying to leverage more control. But the more grounded we are, the more in our hearts. They can't be programmed, by the way. Only the mind can, and hearts are stronger. So when we do our heart-brain coherence, we integrate the heart and the mind gets stronger, resistant to the programming. And we connect more with spirit, because heart-brain synergy brings synergy with spirit also. Basically, it's the divine triad taken in another context, or the Holy Trinity in another context. And that's where you're safe, and will have the greatest positive impact. So it's 122. Let me just do I just want to do one last thing here. And I'll look if anybody has any questions also. And on January 1st, I'm going to release a very condensed version of this. So this 90-minute live stream, I hope to get, well, I'm hoping for 15 minutes. So realistically, in a 20-minute video, to really focus on the key points and be more succinct. So these live streams are a little bit, it's a little bit of a different flavor. I'll put it that way. So this is just you're tapping into the energetic frequencies. It's called the this deck is called the Sacred Geometry Oracle. I think we want the top card. Oh wait, is it just one card? All right. Feels like two cards. Guess it's a thick card. All right. Well, the card I got was number 14, communication. So I think that that's an important energy. What it is of these cards? It feels like they're coming out in pairs. But anyway, the frequency of communication supports our ability to exchange information in many different forms. Oh, okay. I think one thing is that we're going to have like a real kind of new way of communicating with each other. Maybe an AI generated, you have something that's far better than like what's that called? God, I forgot the name of that app that people use to communicate with. But I think you know what we're saying. It reminds us to run every piece of information, both incoming and outgoing, through our heart, the center of our truth, to stay in the flow of source and balanced exchange, basically. So I think what they're trying to say is that we have like new communication devices, using AI, that we don't have to speak the same language, that kind of a thing. Different types of communicator. I know they're already doing that on the internet. So stuff of that nature. And remember, this is a real community energy also. I touched on this point, but I do think we start to see that fundamental split in society that we've been talking about. That is that, as we get more into like the AI and more into like things like, transhumanism and going into these smart cities, which are unhealthy, by the way, electromagnetically, going more into this technocratic type of society, of technology driven and stuff. There's those people that are really wanting the more organic human experience. I mean, I'd rather be able to leverage technology to help in my personal growth, but not have it to rule my life and rule my reality, and having a substitution for spiritual experiences, because that's what they're going to be able to offer. They'll be able to elicit the hormones and brainwaves, through artificial means, so you can experience what it's like to have a moment of spiritual enlightenment. But the thing is, it's not real. It's computer generated. So I think we have this fundamental split where people are going to be starting their own societies, semi off grid. I mean, it may not go full on. It depends on how much humanity awakened and how things evolve. But I think we're going to start to see that, where more people are going to be saying, how are we going to start sustainable communities, get out of this technological rat race until they figure it out. So I think that that's another big aspect of 2026 that I didn't touch on a lot, so I'm touching on it now. So I think this year we're going to think about what are we going to do if the shit hits the fan in the world, and if there's a lot of like oppression or pressures to go into transhumanism or get the digital ID or whatever it is, to get certain inoculations, whatever it is. So I think that's another aspect of that. And I think that's why I pulled this card to try to tell me that. All right, folks, we've been an hour and a half. What do you think? That's long enough for the live stream, right? Like I said, we're going to condense this, and I'll release that on Friday, probably at 11/11 or Thursday. I'm sorry, that's the first. But we covered a lot of ground here, a lot of information. If you missed this, we covered a lot, including the numerology, month by month, synopsis, specific visions and predictions, all that kind of stuff. And that's basically that. So exactly, so we on the Medium channel, we may be talking about, getting together and where can we get some land and do our thing and continue our growth. I think a lot of the native values are going to be more honored as time goes on. It might blend with technology, which would be great. Technology definitely has its place in human evolution and awakening, but if it's in the wrong hands and it's used to leverage control over others rather than to assist us in our own evolution, well, then it's holding us back, right? And it's entrapment. So we see all these spiritual rabbit holes, and we learn from them and grow. So they're not negative, but it's easy to go down the wrong path and get, and spend some time there. So anyway, I think you guys get the idea, and you are welcome. Never too long. Yeah. Well, my computer may start to say, you know what, I'm getting really, really hot, and we're going to start to shut down on our own. So I'm going to, before that happens, I'm going to get going. So anyway, hope you guys found that helpful. Happy 2026. And for anybody that's new, the Medium channel is about awakening, and we do psychic predictions and forecasts. We also do tutorials on different aspects of spiritual awakening. So we are a community of like-minded people dedicated towards the cause of global ascension and awakening. So that's what we do here. We do short form videos, we do regular videos, and we do live streams. And it's all to help us to grow, to connect in conscious community, and be part of the solution of global awakening, basically. So that's what we do. If you like what we do here, please subscribe, become part of the community, and like the video. We help get it out to more people. If you do indeed like it, like what we're doing, and like this, and what else can you do? Share it. Turn friends onto it. And that's what we do. So I love you, and we'll see you next time. Namaste.